35 pulled up.
Okay. Okay, got it.
And so, just to start off the meeting, when we went over IOD 501, so coming in to see the reteach, you stamping with the kids that, hey, this is an inference that has to be made with these two numbers from the chart or table. Also, to the computational point, so I came in and they were like, no, it's 33 point something.
Yeah.
And then the scholar was like, no, it's the 35.7. What can you tell me what happened there?
Yeah, so there was like a discrepancy as to whether or not the answer was 33.7 and 35 because one was closer to the middle. And so I literally laid out like 30, 31, 32, 33, all the way to the end, and then picked the middle number. 35 is the middle number, so that was the answer we went with.
Okay.
Because 20 was right in the middle of 15 and
Yeah,
25.
and that's the tricky part. Like, they all definitely were like picking a distractor because they were partially able to understand the true inference with the computational part that was going on.
Yeah, I think seeing them do that was great. And then I'm excited to look at their data afterwards because they had one of the questions, I made them put it on their quiz. They had to write the answer, but they couldn't just like say the answer was B. They had to say B and why they inferred that it was B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congrats on them. Stamping inference. I am excited to see the data for our next meeting.
Cool.
So for lesson plan 2.5, go ahead and read the objective for me.
Yep, it's analyze evidence from reaction energy diagrams or enzyme activity data to make an evidence-based claim regarding the relationship between the structure and function of enzymes in various environments.
Okay. So enzymes in various environments, and then our ACT or CRS standard is compare or combine data from enzyme graphs or energy diagram to determine. Okay, so the exit ticket is aligned to both objectives, and reviewing the exit tickets and actually putting those pieces together with the IOD 502, and the objective for the content is aligned as well as the exit to the exit ticket. I'm sorry. So now, what we are going to do is break down the know and the do for this objective. Okay, so let's go ahead and take about a minute and 30 seconds and break down the know and do for this. Okay?
For the whole exit ticket or for just this bottom section?
Just the bottom section.
Got it.
Okay. For the bottom section because it encompasses the standard, the IOD 502, as well as the content.
Got it.
Okay. This takes about 30 seconds.
So for no, I wrote they had to know that high enzyme activity means the enzyme is doing its job. They had to understand that enzymes have to be at ideal pH or temperature in order to function properly. Understand the meanings of optimal and less efficient. For do, I said they have to be able to draw straight lines. They have to make inferences. They have to read the graph with multiple pieces of information on it and be able to distinguish between each line. And they had to be able to determine the intervals on a graph.
Yes, so definitely, and so these are the two, the optimal and the lines that I didn't name.
Okay.
I named optimal pH.
Yeah, yeah.
Also just knowing what optimal is, and then being able to identify the optimal pH, and then knowing what an enzyme is and how it reacts in different environments.
Yep.
So we're good on identifying that and me taking those optimals from yours and putting them into mine.
Okay.
And I think it's so important that knowing the optimal pH in which an enzyme will react and what the product may be is so important with this. Okay?
Sweet.
So now we're going to look at some student exemplars.
Okay.
Who've mastered the standard and what are the key exemplars and answers.
Okay.
So I know on top is Ileana. So she's going to be our master exemplar. So we can put Lexus. Yes.
You're okay. Hold on.
Okay. So now we're going to split them up. Okay. And those are our high, medium, low,
Okay.
solid. Okay.
Got it. Wait, these are the high kids. They got all three of these.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So let's look at these two. Well, two and two.
Yeah.
And 3 and 3.
3 and
3 and 3. Yes. And so, looking at these 3, you have 3, I have 3. And so we're going to look at the key points or the key examples and answers that they mastered and connected to the standard.
Got it.
And we're going to take, we looked over it somewhat, so you feel good about 4 minutes or 5 minutes?
4.
4 minutes, okay.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
So let's walk through it.
Okay.
So looking at these student exemplars, we got all 3 correct, right? What are the keys to the student of mastering the standard?
So for me, it was, well, on some of them they didn't have it, but the ones that I did notice that were getting multiple ones correct, it was they had annotated the graph. So like in Ileana's example, and then even in Alicia's example, they've actually circled the highest graph and then use that to decide their answer. You can see them like, you can see the pencil lines of their, like going in between the intervals of drawing like 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 to determine which ones were less efficient. And then for 8, you have like, I think Ileana and there's this one, Lexus, who draws the line up to find it.
Yes, and so the key points for me, the takeaways, and so the annotation, and so specifically for Ileana and Lexus, and you said?
Yeah, it's Alicia. Alicia has them.
And Alicia has the annotation for the graph, right? So we picked out 6.
Right.
That we said were exempt.
But only 3 have the
But only
annotation.
3 have the annotation, right? And so when we tie that to our know and our show, like we are doing the evidence, plain reasoning, and so this is their evidence, right? To then make their claim. And this will then help them supply the reasoning. And then even them identifying the intervals and which intervals to look at shows that they mastered it because they've annotated, right? Even with, and you can see how it is exemplary for Lexus even, she, for number 3, she had A. But she raced A, and you can see that she went to B because now she went like, oh, the optimal PA.
Yeah, and she can tell the capsaicin is down.
Yes.
Even though it has the highest overall.
Yes. And so then it shows mastery with these 3, knowing that they know what optimal means, right? We said they should know what optimal means, and then being able to identify the different intervals. So that definitely shows the masters where we have now Imani,
Derek and Calvin.
Derek and Calvin will be now our moderate or middle scholars. Okay.
And so it's almost as if, like, for me, it's like on these questions where they're multiple choices or they're like fill in the blank where they feel like they shouldn't have to have some sort of verification, we should be seeing the verification on the graph.
Yes.
Okay.
And so now we see that they've identified, they know what optimal means, they've used their evidence, right, for these 3. And so, like, naming the gap between those 2, well, these 3 and these 3, what is that gap?
It's they're not annotating their evidence.
They're not annotating the evidence. And so, by them not annotating the evidence, do they truly know what evidence means?
Right, I don't think they do, because you don't have, if you aren't, like, if there's no, it's almost as if, like, the kids will be like, oh, I know how to answer the question, I know the answer, I can look at it and tell, but it's more about, like, this idea of justification. And so, like, being able to justify using the evidence, like, by drawing intervals, by doing all of that, it's more than just annotation, it's actually building in your argument.
Yes, building in your argument.
Cool.
So now, look, we're going to separate these. So this is our exemplary, those are our moderate. And then now we have these 3. So let's take, I think we probably have like 3 minutes to look over it. Okay.
Yeah, there's just no annotations. There's no annotations, and it's almost as if they're doing, like, some of the mistakes that you see are when they mix up the x and the y axis. And so for me, the gap to me seems like justification of evidence. Like even in these types of problems, they have to be able to show evidence of what they're doing.
And so,
Bryson, Joseph, and Diamond.
So if I'm looking at the errors I see in Coy, and so I noticed with Coy, he's putting the key down, right?
Yeah.
And these two more so are putting the numbers.
Yep.
Right? And so the question is, according to the information given above, it can be concluded that the enzyme with the highest activity is blank, right? And so he put 7. And so looking at, I'm not sure why so 7 is here, right?
Yep.
Is he looking at 7 being almost the tallest?
That would be my guess.
The highest on the graph, right? And so he hasn't even identified X and Y. They haven't identified X or Y, and they put a number as well.
Yeah, they're putting the Y number.
Yes. And so we're still able to get these 2 questions correct, but I'm not sure if they still understand what optimal is. And also, too, I wonder who these 2 scholars were sitting next to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The multiple choice ones.
No annotation.
So
and even if, I'm sorry.
And
even if you go up here, with those answers incorrect, they mislabeled this with the vocabulary as well. So it is a line. So they're not. So looking at these 3 and those 3, the gap between, from looking at our high, our moderate, and then our low, what will be the gap?
So it would be being able to read. That feels like such a low score. Like being able to read and interpret the graph, and then also being able to justify your answer using evidence.
Yes. And so naming that, we name it so. Name and interpret the graph goes into what?
It's like it's one of the other standards, right?
So if they don't know what the X and Y are, then
they don't
know the
independent, dependent.
So, and the independent and dependent variable is our what? Can be considered our what when explaining?
Can we consider the evidence?
Yes.
Yeah, they don't know the evidence. So then, okay, so I guess my first quick fix of being able to better hone in on the gap would be to start including, even on these multiple choice questions, a way of justification. So doing that. And then my second thought is you have some ACT passages that specifically just have them breaking down the actual passage before it gets to questions.